600 wins, 6 Georgia State championships, 16 regional championships, 2-time National Coach of the Year, first team from Georgia to win the City of Palms Classic, the nation's #1 high school tournament, first team in Georgia history to attend the Dick's Sporting Goods National Tournament of Championships. He's produced numerous NBA players and professional basketball players all over the world. It's real basketball talk. It's real help and real life with Coach Doug Lipscomb on the BG Podcast Network. Real Life Basketball is brought to you by the all-new 2018 K900 at Carriage Kia of Woodstock and Gainesville. Buy your new K900 from Carriage Kia and we'll fly you in or come pick you up for delivery. Visit CarriageKia.com 24/7, 365 days a year. For America's best deal on the K900, call Chris Stanford directly at 1-866-333-2122. That's 1-866-333-2122.
And welcome once again. I think this is episode 2829, Real Life Basketball. Darren Sutherland sitting in with the legend, Doug Lipscomb. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great.
How's your brackets looking?
Terrible.
Terrible, Nick? How's your brackets looking?
I think in one bracket I'm at 14%, and my best bracket's at 60.
Well, last night I was almost perfect. And y'all know how that is?
You lost them
If
all.
Michigan had a lost, I would have been perfect in picking every loser on the floor. I picked Nevada. I picked Kentucky. I picked Gonzaga, even though I don't like Mark Few. And it's nothing personal against Mark Few. I'd love for Mark Few to come on here. And my question for Mark Few would be, how does a guy, A, never age because he eats granola all the time, because I know he's one of them Northwestern guys, and B, how do you get to be the coach of a major college team and you never even play the game, which is kind of like, a good little thing. He never played college basketball, if I understand it correctly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's pretty good, ain't it?
That's
never
very
never
good.
coach and never to play the game, and all of a sudden you're a coach of a Gonzaga team. You built a program. Folks, if you don't realize Gonzaga's a program, and you're from around here, Kennesaw State is bigger than Gonzaga. So, Coach, maybe you ought to go back to Kennesaw State and take your job. They got a coach, though.
Yes, they do. They have.
They got it. Good. Final four. Who'd you have? What'd you think last night? And we'll go into more detail. We got Stacy Davis with NYC Hoops coming up. But last night, did you watch any of the games? Kansas State against Kentucky and Loyola of Chicago against Nevada. What was your thoughts on those games?
Well, Kansas State was dominant as far as just controlling the game. And when it got down to it, it basically came down to the kid making the layup, and people on Kentucky's team was not in the right position on defense, and that's why he scored.
Do you think, Coach, this overall talent is a little overrated when it comes to tournament time? Because what we're seeing is talent being pushed to the side for team play. Kansas State doesn't have necessarily the talent Kentucky has. However, their team play and their maturity and their attitude is a whole lot better. Do you see that coming through as basketball begins to evolve at the college level?
Well, if you're taking notice, you're going to see a lot of maturity in these teams that are advancing, and that's very important as well. I mean, skill set is very, very close. If you're looking at games that we watched over the last couple of days, they've been 1-point games.
Yeah.
So they can go either way.
It's funny when we talk about recruiting, and recruiting far better than I do, and I pay attention to it because of the show and because I enjoy it. But you always hear, I remember the Zion Williamson recruiting stuff, and you hear North Carolina, you hear Duke, you hear Kentucky, you hear Kansas on one level, the Blue Bloods. Then you hear the secondary level, the Arizonas, the Floridas, the North Carolina States, the folks like that, even Michigans, Ohio States. Have you noticed this, Coach? When's the last time in recruiting a 5-star that you've heard the name Villanova? I mean, Think about it. McDonald's All-American game coming up next week, and we're going to be there.
Yes.
How many Villanova signees come out of the McDonald's All-American game? I don't know.
I can't tell you the number, but I'm sure they've had several over the past. And that's funny you mentioned that because Florida State has one kid that's a McDonald's All-American. Yeah. C.J. Walker.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm talking about. I mean, Villanova from everything. See, because here's what I'm saying. When you talk college basketball, and you talk college basketball as a whole, you talk and you mention a team, Villanova, you think team. You don't think player.
Okay, I got one better than that.
When you talk, hold on, let me finish real quick, and then you tell me. When you talk Duke, you think Marvin Bagley. You think Grayson Allen. You think Wendell Carter. You think Mr. Trent. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with that?
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
What do you think if I say Virginia basketball?
I think team.
Well, it is. Mm-hmm.
I think team. I really do. Nick, you're a fan. You're a producer. What do you think?
When I hear Virginia, I think of USMBC.
Now. For
You
sure.
want to talk about a team. But, yeah, I can't think of any Villanova stars that have ever been a 5-star. The only Villanova pro athlete I know is Brian Finneran.
Yeah.
And he plays football.
Yeah, that's true. But I can think of, the best. Hey, Villanova, the thing I always remember about Villanova is, I remember this as a kid, Riley Massimino beating and Ed Pinckney and, beating Georgetown. That's what I remember. And I know they've won since then. But you always think of team. You follow what I'm saying? You talk about Virginia. They've had some 5-stars. Courtney Alexander lives right here in this area. He was a 5-star over
Great
there.
guy.
I mean, Ralph Sampson. If he hadn't have got injured, Hall of Famer instantly was a 5-star. Here's a quick question. I'll throw this out to you, Doug. You remember this. You remember when, and there was only 400 people in the gym. Nick, this predates you, okay? But they always have a big tournament over there in Maui at the preseason. Mm-hmm. And Ralph Sampson was going to be a senior. Now, this is a guy, folks, if you don't know who Ralph Sampson is, he was 7'4" and could play guard, okay? This is back in what, 85, 84, 83, somewhere around there?
Yes.
This is back in the day where a 7'4" guy put on post. He didn't get to play guard, but Ralph Sampson was playing for Virginia. He stayed all 4 years. He could have left after his freshman year, okay? From what I understand, there was people offering him millions to leave after his freshman, but Ralph stayed all 4 years, okay? They go play in the Maui Invitational. What's a bigger upset for Virginia? They lose to NAIA with Ralph Sampson, Chaminade, and you've heard this story, or the loss to University of Maryland, Baltimore County. What's a bigger loss to you?
The Maryland loss right now because it's more publicized and social media is on the scene whenever anything happens.
Yeah.
So that would have been blown out of the water as well. But social media.
Yeah, social media didn't exist. There was only 400 people in the gym, and there was no cameras even there recording that game back in '84 when they lost it over in Hawaii. But I remember ESPN coming on with their block letters. Chaminade shocks Virginia. I think I was in the 8th grade at that time, and I'm 48 years old at this point. So anyway, hey, got a great interview in just a second coming up with Stacy Davis. Thank you for listening once again to Real Life Basketball. Hey, go back and check out some of our old shows with folks like Charlie Ward, Jay Billis. I thought last night as I was watching Nevada play Loyola of Chicago, I thought for a second I was going to have to get Nick to go back and pull Jay. If Nevada had a won, I was going to get Nick to go back and pull that liner where Jay said, well, I said, Jay, is there any sleepers in this tournament? And he went on and on about Nevada, if you remember that correctly. But just like everybody else, even the experts are wrong. Take a listen to our interview with Stacy Davis with NYC Hoops right here on Real Life Basketball.
Come see the Carriage family and experience the Carriage difference.
Kia Kia is keeping it real with the all-new 2018 K900. Drive the car LeBron James drives and other NBA players call their preferred vehicle of choice. And right now, Carriage Kia of Woodstock and Gainesville has your new K900 ready for delivery. Go online, handle everything, then upon completion, we will fly you in to pick up your new K900 or deliver it directly to you. Call Chris Stanford directly at 1-866-333-2122. That's 1-866-333-2122. Ask for Chris Stanford. Carriage Kia, 24/7, 365 days a year at carriagekia.com.
Come see the Carriage family and experience the Carriage difference.
And welcome to Real Life Basketball again on the Carriage Automotive Group Skype line. We've got one of our favorite guests this afternoon, Doug, all the way up there from NYC Hoops in New York City. Stacy Davis, the Insider's Insider. Stacy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. My bracket's a little busted right now.
Just a little busted. Just a little.
Just a little.
Well, you know, Doug and I were sitting here talking before we got you on the line about last night. Now, let me ask you this. You didn't have Kansas State against Loyola of Chicago in your Elite Eight matchup, did you? When you filled your bracket out to start with?
To be fair, I didn't do after I got busted. I didn't redo a bracket.
Really?
I just didn't. I was like, whatever. I don't care who wins. That's how I felt after a while. So, but while I was watching the game, I knew that Kansas could beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
Only because they're strong defense. And as I was watching the game, and if you were watching, you could see Kentucky they kind of checked out at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could see it. You could see it with their body language. If you looked over at the bench when guys were sitting down and their facial expressions, so you could see which way that game was going.
You know, I noticed watching Kansas State, and Doug and I talked about this on Monday during our show when they were playing, who was that they were playing the other? Maryland, Baltimore County, whatever, that beat Virginia. The size of the guys for Kansas State compared to the Baltimore, the Kansas State guys look like grown men. Even they look like grown men against the Kentucky kids, in all honesty. I mean, you know, you're looking at Kentucky.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's been a theme. A lot of fifth-year seniors have been on these teams. That's been a current theme. And a lot of guys that are a lot older have been going against these freshmen. So that's been like a theme.
No doubt. No doubt. And in the other game, Loyola of Chicago against Nevada, you've got to be rooting for Loyola of Chicago. You've got to. I mean, just
because of Sister Jean.
because of Sister Jean, and it would be, in a sense, like the Manhattan Jaspers, so to speak, going to the Elite Eight. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, you're right. That is the same.
It's about the same. Doug, what'd you think about those two games last night?
Well, if you go back to the Nevada game, and near the end, the drive to the basket where the kid went to the left, made the layup, that's one of those plays where just being in the proper position on defense would have changed the whole scenario. You had the kid coming over trying to make the block, just barely missed it, but then you had another kid right beside him that didn't step over to help at all. And that's the difference in the game right there at the end. You got to make those plays.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Loyola, they're hot.
Yeah. All right, Doug, I'm going to start with you. Loyola of Chicago against Kansas State. Who you taking?
Kansas State.
Stacy, who you taking? Loyola of Chicago or Kansas State?
I don't want to go against Sister Jean. Just Loyola Chicago.
Loyola of Chicago. You know what? You know who I'm feeling bad for in this whole situation with these two teams playing? I'm feeling bad for the Atlanta Sports Council that they're going to have an empty Phillips Arena come Saturday night for a nationally televised game between Kansas State and Loyola of Chicago, because nobody's going to pay $317 a ticket to go see that game unless you're from Chicago or Kansas State. But you know what? I got to go with Kansas State. They're just grown men looking out there. They really are grown men looking out there. So it's two on one. One question before we leave that bracket, Stacy, and I want to ask you this question, Doug this question. At the end of the game, Doug, you might know where I'm going with this. I ain't even brought this up to you this morning yet. The Kentucky players refused to shake hands last night with the Kansas State players. If you're John Calipari, what do you say to them kids at the end in the locker room after that game?
Well, you always got to tell your kids to act with class. I mean, because you got to act the same way, just like you're used to winning, you know. And I saw that take place in the Florida State game. It was like, this is just another game. We still haven't completed this mission yet.
Yeah.
But I think the coach would tell them, you know, we're going to represent ourselves, you know, to be respectful people.
Stacy, culture's a different thing in different places. I know how it's going to be viewed in the South. How's it going to be viewed in the Northeast that Kentucky didn't go out and shake the hands of the Kansas State players after the game?
I don't know. To me, when it comes to that, I already know the type of guys that are out there on the floor. You know, I kind of know them from seeing them for so long. And for us, it's the same thing. It just shows that you're a poor sportsman. And also, you got to remember, too, a lot of those guys are coming out.
Yeah.
They're going to declare. A lot of those guys want to declare. I've been hearing names, and I'm like, why is he coming out? You know? And so a lot of them are going to declare, and they don't realize that NBA teams are watching their behavior.
Yeah.
They're not just watching them play. And so I think for me, I think it just reflects on their character. That's how I look at it.
I'm the same way. I think the character hurts them. I think it also is going to hurt Calipari in the long run, if you don't know the truth about it, with his recruiting. If I'm a dad of a kid, I'm not going to mention any names, but Doug, if I'm a dad of a kid that's looking at Kentucky right now and I see how that is, I'm sitting here thinking, man, coach don't have enough control of his team. I want my son, even if he's a one-and-done kid, to have a little discipline and to move forward. Let's look at the other bracket down in the West real quick. Florida State, and Stacy, let me tell you this, okay? And you need to tell all your college coaches friends this right here. Doug and I interviewed 3 assistant coaches this year, okay? Would you believe every coach, every team that we have interviewed their assistant coach, the team went to the final, the Sweet 16. Kentucky with Kenny Payne, Florida State, which we're about to talk about with the Gonzaga, with Stan Jones, and Texas A&M with Amir Abdul-Rahim. So Florida State, we've got to root for Florida State. They beat a good Gonzaga team last night. What's your thought on Florida State against Michigan? Michigan just totally demolished Texas A&M. And what's your thought on that bracket there right now?
I already have Michigan winning. I have Michigan beating them. This is like, I don't even see it being a real game. I just think Michigan's going to run over them.
Michigan is strong. When Michigan won that Big Ten tournament, I think they sent a message to everyone that they were strong. But, Doug, we can't root against Florida State, though, can we, my man?
No, I won't root against them. I like Leonard Hamilton. I like his philosophy. He has no time for BS. But on the other end, Muhammad Ali Abdur-Rahim, however you pronounce his name, he's a real player.
Yeah.
So he's not going to back down.
His dad's a small college coach in Pennsylvania, I think. Stacy, do you know where his dad's a coach at, the kid from Michigan that's so good? The Abdul-Rahim kid?
No.
He's
No, I'm not. I don't know.
He's from Pennsylvania somewhere. But so you got Michigan coming out. Doug, who you got, Florida State or Michigan?
I think Florida State's going to fight. I like how they can play 8, 9, 10 kids and just go at it. You know what?
I've got to go with Florida State, and here's why. I'm going with Florida State in my gut because everybody I picked to win loses. So I think Michigan's going to win it all. So I don't want to pick Michigan because I think they're going to win it all anyway. So I'm going to pick Florida State. How's that sound?
All
All
right.
right, let's go to tonight's games real quick and then and talk about that. Villanova at West Virginia. Does Bob Huggins have a chance tonight, Stacy?
No way. No way. Villanova's been there too many times. There's no way. There's no way. I have Villanova going on.
Yeah.
And then I have down below, I have
Texas Tech.
yeah,
at Purdue.
I have Kansas and Duke.
Kansas and Duke. So who you got in that Texas Tech Purdue game?
I have Purdue.
Purdue. Doug, what you got?
Purdue.
Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got here's and what about Kansas and Clemson, Doug?
I got to roll with Kansas.
So you got Kansas, and then you got Duke and Syracuse. Who you got, Doug?
Kansas.
Kansas, Duke and Syracuse.
Duke and Syracuse. I got to go with Duke.
You got to go with Duke. Here's what I'm going with tonight. I'm going with West Virginia. I'm going with Texas Tech. I'm going with Clemson, and I'm going with Syracuse. You know why? Because it makes no sense in this tournament. It makes no sense whatsoever. Got one question for you before we move to the next round of questions with Stacy, Doug, while we're talking about Syracuse and Duke. Okay? Duke, Jim Boeheim has been Mike Krzyzewski's assistant coach on the USA basketball team for years. Okay? So if anybody knows how Krzyzewski thinks, it's got to be Jim Boeheim. Stacy, I'll ask you, I want you to think about this too. Does that give Boeheim an advantage over other coaches when they play Duke? Doug, when you've coached against one of your former assistants, do you feel like they've got an advantage because they know how you think?
Well, that's twofold. They know how you think. You know how they think. I would bet, if I was a betting person, that Syracuse is going to play a zone. What you think?
Yeah.
So there it is.
They always play zone.
Exactly.
They always play zone. What's new?
Yeah. So I mean, we know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So
No
you
doubt.
know,
But you're right, Doug. It's like if I'm with you all the time, I can pretty much predict what you're going to do because you have tendencies. Everybody has tendencies. Are you going to change it at this late point in time? Maybe you may tweak some things, but that's about it.
Well, truth of the matter is, Krzyzewski's going to run his own tonight too because he tried to get those kids to play man all year long, and they couldn't play man. They was getting beat. Now they're running his own. So, who you got coming out of that Final Four, Stacy? I know you said Villanova up top. Who you got beating between? You got Kansas and Duke. Who you got winning that game this week?
I have Duke.
Duke.
I have Villanova and Duke. Those are my final choices.
So-
And then I have Villanova.
Villanova in the finals against Michigan.
Mm-hmm. And then I have Villanova beating Michigan.
Man, Villanova, I just can't go with Villanova. I mean, and every time I pick against them, I thought Alabama had a shot. But, we've seen what happened there. Doug, who you got in your finals right now?
well, I like Kansas, and I had Villanova up top.
Kansas and Villanova, who you got?
And the other ones over there, heck, like y'all just said.
You ain't got a chance, huh?
No.
Well, Butler almost beat Duke one time in the final, so Loyola of Chicago could end up doing it. Who knows? Well, Stacy, let's talk about college head coaches and moving them around and all that kind of good stuff. Down here at Georgia, we was certainly disappointed. I was personally. I told Doug this. He wasn't, and he thought it was a pretty good hiring, Tom Crean.
Whoa. I didn't say it was a bad hire.
You said it was pretty good.
I'm going to say the cup is half full.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I wanted Thad Matta, but I understand when you got a $3 million a year contract to sit at home and they only offering you 3.2 to come south, you ain't going to move your family. So that's why Thad didn't come. But what's going on up there in the Northeast as far as coaches? What are you hearing coming out of Connecticut with Kevin Ollie leaving?
You know what's so weird about the whole thing?
Yeah.
They keep saying just cause, but they never say what it is. Like, what is it? No one's saying what it is. And I've been reading that they're going to go into arbitration. Then I read something else about him fighting to keep his job. And this was like before they hired Dan Hurley. Him fighting to keep his job, him fighting for the money. And then I heard another thing that, they're just using that as an excuse not to pay him.
You know what?
So, because in his contract, it says, I read that they don't have to pay him if they have a reason not to pay him. So they came up with this just cause. I don't know, because we still don't know what the just cause is.
Yeah, and where does that leave Dan Hurley? I mean, if they took it to court or something like that and told Kevin Ollie, yeah, you can have your job back, where's that leave Dan Hurley? So who knows? Who knows?
Like to me, it's a done deal already. I mean, like Dan and Calhoun, they're all friends. They've been friends for years.
Yeah.
The father's friends with him.
Yeah.
They've all been around each other for years. So it seems like it was all planned. It was all planned months ago.
And it makes you almost feel bad for Kevin, because, he won the national championship, and 3 years later he's losing his job. He's a good coach. He'll land somewhere. He'll land somewhere. But, Hurley moves over from Rhode Island, and, heck, that's like going from county to county down here, Doug. And he already knows the system up there and how to recruit and all that kind of good stuff. So, anyway, what about you hearing anything about Pittsburgh? I mean, I ain't even what's going on over there? Anybody know anything? Doug, Stacy, anybody know anything?
Stacy knows.
What's going on in Pittsburgh, Stacy?
I heard, what do you think Stacy does? I heard the Buffalo coach.
Yeah.
And then I heard UMBC coach. And then I heard Kevin from Seton Hall. Those are the names that I've heard.
I could see Odom at BC getting it. Odom's going to get a job somewhere, if not this year, next year. I think he's a hot commodity, the UMBC coach. When you beat Virginia like that, you've got to be a hot commodity, especially when your dad has a pedigree, coached at Wake Forest during their glory days and other places. Wouldn't you agree, Doug?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't hurt you to have a good last name, does it?
It doesn't hurt at all.
So anyway, so that's. Will Patino show up anywhere, Stacy? We'll move right on, because one of our most listened to shows in all of real life basketball is When We Talk to You, and we're going to touch on this in just a second with the FBI investigation. But let's talk Rick Pitino for just a second. Is he going to show up anywhere? He has been awful quiet, not even been a commentator on TV, which kind of surprises me. But is he going to show up anywhere since he's gone from Louisville?
He's got so much negativity behind him. I don't think anybody wants to be associated with him, even if they want to hire him. All the negativity and all of that, all the things he brings, I don't think you want to attach yourself to that. May it be in the pros, may it be in college. I don't think anybody wants to touch him right now. I think he has to cool down for a while, and then maybe.
Does he go to the league by chance? You think, to rebuild himself? Does he go to the NBA?
I doubt it, because you don't hear anything about him in the NBA. No one's even mentioning his name.
Right. It's almost like he's disappeared. And if you think about it, Louisville on football's got a coach that everybody just thinks is crazy too, Bobby Petrino. Come on. He's a bigger crook than Pitino is. Doug, what do you think? What do you think's going on in Pitino? If you could speculate, you've met the man. I know you have. I've seen him at Wheeler's gym before.
Well, I just think he's taking a back seat right now, but I'm sure he's well involved with what's going on with the openings and everything.
Yeah.
Now, Stacy, let me ask you a question. Let's go into this one right here. I want you to give me your honest opinion on what in the world is going on with the FBI investigation, because it's some words I could use, but we probably wouldn't be able to have our license much longer. So what you can state how you feel.
I think it's ridiculous at this point. I understand that you have to wait till you go to trial. The trial is set for the fall. So there's this big gap of time until then. And so, in the meanwhile, what does the NCAA do with the little bits and pieces of information they have so far? It doesn't seem like they want to do much. Sean stated his job, and then the other thing that came out, the conflicting stories with the wiretap. It made no sense, because the story said 2017, but DeAndre committed. If you look in Rivals, DeAndre committed in September 2016.
Yeah.
So what's the real story? unless somebody that. The only thing I was thinking is that maybe they messed up the dates. I don't know when they were writing it. But there's just so much information. And then another thing, when anyone, it doesn't matter what it is, they go to court, how are these writers able to get all of these documents and ledgers? Like Pete over at Yahoo, he did a story and he has like all these long, lengthy documents and Excels of payments going here saying loans. Everything says loans. Loans to this person, loans to that person, loans to this player, taking someone here, taking someone there. How are you able to even get that if the case isn't even done? And it goes, who's giving you this information? Where'd you get it from?
Yeah.
The only people that can see it are the people that are involved in the case. So I guess if I'm involved in the case, I have that information. So then somebody involved in the case has given that person the information. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. Now, I'm going to ask you this question right here. How about the situation with the FBI when it comes to Auburn? Okay, you ridicule the coach, and then you take his best player,
Austin Wiley.
and he doesn't get to play the whole season. Then all of a sudden you say, well, we're just going to suspend him for 9 games next year. Who does that?
It's like they didn't know what to do. It's like they had, it's like, all right, we did this. So just so we're not wrong, so we're going to do this. We're going to punish them in some way. We're not going to really penalize them, but we're going to punish them in some kind of way.
Stacy, put yourself in the mindset of the NCAA real quick for just a second and think about this. And here's a question I have for you, which kind of upset me when I seen the brackets picked out. You've got a subpar Oklahoma team that loses to Oklahoma State during their own Big 12 tournament, makes the tournament. You've got questions on Trae Young's recruiting. Trae Young, immediately after they lose, is the first player to commit to the draft. Okay, you've got an Arizona team. Yeah, they're number one. Goes in the tournament, gets beat by Buffalo. Any team that appeared to have a top NBA draft pick made the NCAA tournament, i.e. Oklahoma, i.e. Alabama, which were both bubble teams. Do you think that the NCAA committee looked at star power over teams like Middle Tennessee State and USC in St. Bonaventure and some of the good teams showing up good in the NIT this year for star power? Do you think the NCAA said we've got to have those stars in there for TV ratings because we got a $10 billion contract because they know potentially what's coming up with this FBI thing?
Of course, and it's no big surprise that these guys are entering the draft. I mean, it was a given.
Yeah.
So now they're off the hook.
Right.
But of course, they have a contract. They have to fulfill it. They can't have names up there that no one recognizes or people aren't really that excited about. They have to have these guys in. So I thought the same thing that you thought. I said that early on, and somebody was like, oh, no, that's not true. And I said, but it looks that way. Exactly what you said, it looks that way.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I don't know what they're doing, but it's just like they're doing everything for self. The NCAA, everything is about their self. Like right now, they're probably excited because everybody's excited over these subpar teams winning, and they're probably happy because people are watching.
Oh yeah, it's about the viewers, and you know what's amazing is that it's so obvious that we sit here and we can see that purpose of that was to make sure that we get every bit of money out of those big name kids as we possibly can. So you're gonna tune in and watch. People got to go see them, things like that. But it was so funny. I heard a reporter ask Trae Young, "Do you think you're making the right decision?" I would have loved to have been his parents to answer that question for him. Why wouldn't it be the right decision? At all? I mean, I just don't get it. And they know what's going on as well, the reporters. So, yeah.
Well, it's like this right here, Doug. I mean, the players have to look out for themselves because the NCAA is ultimately looking out for themselves. Yes. Stacy and I just both said, I mean, the fact that they put these players in there to get done. I would have liked to seen this, Stacy, and I think this needs to happen one day, and I think I've told Doug this, and I'll tell you what my opinion is on this. if I was the Marvin Bagley of this world, if I was a Wendell Carter, if I was a Colin Sexton, if I was a Trae Young, you let 4 or 5 of these major kids get together as freshmen, and when the NCAA tournament comes up, they say nope, and they know they're going to be number 1 draft picks next year. They say nope. They do like the guys going to the bowl games. They say nope, we're staying at home. We're not going to play in this tournament. We're not going to play in this game. Then and they say why? Well, because we've played all year long, made them all this money, and we don't want to keep making them this money. Then and only then will the NCAA take notice. What do you think, Stacey? You think anything like that could ever happen or potentially happen? I mean, they do it in bowl games now. You see number 1 draft picks, quarterbacks, kid from UCLA. Nope, I'm not playing in this bowl game. It don't mean nothing. So could that potentially happen?
I was saying that early on Twitter. I said that the players should just boycott. Everybody not play. Final Four is getting ready to come up, or whatever's getting ready to come up. Everybody say, I'm not playing. I'm not playing in this. And that's what I said early on, because that's the only way they can ever win is if they don't participate.
Right. And you're exactly right, because, I mean, think about how much money, Bagley is bringing to TV tonight. I seen this estimate. I'm an advertising guy, and y'all know this. You don't know. I saw the numbers. Do you know what value was placed on Maryland, Baltimore County, whatever, the University, UMBC? You know what the value placed on their advertising for beating Virginia was, and the amount that they received alone from a 16 beating of 1 inside of 3 days? Anybody got any ideas? This is the value of this. $27 million in unpaid advertising they got nationally for winning that. That's what the value of it was. So if that's valued at $27 million, what's Marvin Bagley valued at Duke? You follow what I'm saying? He's the biggest player left in the tournament. Think about that. So I just go back and say, hey, look, Stacy, I said this early on, and I'll say it again, and it's really one of the only times, I don't know if you heard our show when we talked about this the other week. And we don't get into politics on here, but damn it, we got the FBI worrying about the NCAA and some kid getting $20,000 for their parents to go watch a basketball game. And down in Florida, in Maryland, we got kids shooting up schools, and they knew about it before it happened. So you know what? FBI needs to get out of college athletics and move on. So, that's just the way we think about it, because we know what's going on. None of us are silly. Stacy, what's going on with the NBA? Tell us real quick. We know you got to get out of here, but tell us what's going on with your NBA.
Well, I had the Raptors early on, and the Raptors and the Celtics.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, LeBron, he's showing up. For some reason, he's showing up now. But, I mean, can one guy, really push his team, push the rest of them? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And then down below, I have the Rockets. The Rockets, I'm really liking them right now.
You think the Rockets?
And then the Warriors. But the Warriors always sneak in there. They just always, when it comes time to show up, they always show up.
Stacey, how can you use the word
So I guess
sneak?
I'm going to go with the Warriors.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know, I'm torn.
Well, let me ask you this.
I'm torn between the Raptors and the Cavs.
Okay.
Raptors and the Cavs. Yeah, let me ask you this. Will Kevin Love ever be the Kevin Love he was with the Timberwolves, or was he so overrated with the Timberwolves that we're expecting too much of him with the Cavs?
Successful, and then people showing up. They said, what was it? The attendance was poor there when Tubby's there.
Yeah.
So I see people just showing up because it's Penny Hardaway. He's a brand by himself. He's just a brand. He's a walking brand. And so I see that whole program elevating and people wanting to invest more into that. And guys wanting to go there because of that.
Stacy, what do we got to do to get New York basketball back on a national level? High school, college, or pro? Which one's the first one going to be able to do it in the near future? And where do you look to see the world looking at New York City before long? In what level to get them there?
Well, we're getting ready to go into AAU season, and a lot of the guys that are very, very good have left New York. And that's one of the biggest problems. So I think that trend right there has to stop, because once the guy leaves New York State and he's playing somewhere else, people are like, well, he's not in New York anymore. He's playing over here. So then they don't really count that. So then they're looking at him over there. And the only guy that's staying right now is Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony's here.
Yeah.
So I don't, I mean, like Cole Anthony is like the next guy on the rise.
Right.
And then so that's who we have to look at, and, he's the guy right now.
Well, maybe y'all need to find y'all a Penny Hardaway to coach in college up there to keep everybody. Maybe get a break.
Exactly. I don't know why guys want to leave, because New York is so, it's like, you're going to play, I mean, if you're at St. John's, you're going to play at the Garden. Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why they're so, I guess they get talked into it, or whatever reason it is, or maybe they just want to play with one of their friends. Oh, my friend's going over here. I want to play over there. Whatever it is, their reasoning.
Yeah.
But staying home is not the popular decision. Somehow that's got to change for New York to be what it was.
And even in the pro ranks, people are not wanting to play for the Knicks. I mean, I've often said this, Stacy, and tell me if I'm wrong. We all remember when the Cubs won the World Series, what a victory parade that was, okay? Millions upon millions of people stood on Michigan Avenue and watched the Cubs in their victory parade. What kind of parade would it be? And I know you've had the Yankees win, the Mets win, the Giants win, and even the Jets have won since the Knicks have won. I can't remember. If the Knicks won the NBA title, what kind of celebration would happen in New York City?
Oh my God, it'd be crazy. It would be like New Year's Eve in Times Square.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen how everybody's out there like that. That's exactly what it would be like.
Yeah.
It would be like crazy. Everybody would be in Manhattan. It'd be like an overflow of people. It would be insane.
Yeah. It'd be. We had Charlie Ward on earlier this week, and he talked about playing for the Knicks, and he said it was one of the best experiences of his life. So before the game, we even asked him about the PG. For listeners that want to know and are listening to Stacy today, go back and listen to our show with Charlie Ward, and he'll tell about the P.J. Brown incident. We asked him about that in detail. Stacy, we know you got to go, but tell us about how folks can hear the great insight Stacy Davis brings to the table. Tell everybody what's going on in your life. We know you got Villanova winning it all right now against Michigan, but how can our fans follow Stacy Davis and get all your insights and anything else you want to add?
Oh, you can follow me on my Twitter page, which is NYC Hoops, the letter N, and ball. And you could also go to nychoops.net as well.
Easy enough. Easy enough. Doug?
Well, Stacy, thank you again for coming on. We always enjoy talking to you.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Stacy, incredible insight. Now, you know what, Stacy? I'm going to call this out right now, though, because we get a lot of folks listening. I would rather see you on the sidelines interviewing some of these folks than some of them other folks that's out there interviewing, I mean, I'm going to tell you, Stacy's insight, she knows basketball. She knows it well. She's a very attractive lady, and she knows what she's talking about. Some of these others, not so much, Stacy. I'm not going to name names because my granny taught me better. Make sense?
That makes sense.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stacy. We appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
You too.
No problem. Stacy Davis, NYC Hoops there, Doug. Some incredible information. Nick, you sat there and listened the whole time. What did you think about the information Stacy provided? What sticks out in our conversation with Stacy with you, just in that whole conversation?
That LeBron's going to the Rockets. Did not see that one coming, but that's what stuck out to me the most.
Coach, what do you think? Out of all things Stacy said, what's going on with it?
Well, she definitely has the insight on everything. But it's an interesting fact that y'all brought up when you were talking about the Uber driver and who he wants to perform and how he wants the people to perform. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to a motivational workshop.
Yeah.
And one of the speakers was talking about his Uber driver the night before. And it just happened to be one of the former Brave pitchers. Mm-hmm. And I was stunned. And he also invited the guy to the motivational thing.
Yeah.
You never would think that a former pitcher would be an Uber driver.
Yeah.
And so things happen in life.
Yeah.
So I wish him the best and continue to make money and support yourself.
You never know where you're going to find yourself. You really never know. And I wasn't trying to be so hard a while ago when I said people don't care about folks and what they're going through. I wasn't trying to be hard there. What I was trying to say was when you're dealing with the game, okay, people care about what's going on during the game, about what's going on between the lines, okay? I'm not watching the Cavaliers just say between the lines, well, Kevin Love gets a break for missing that rebound or missing that shot because he's going through personal problems. I could care less about his personal problems at that point, okay? I want to see him perform at a professional level, okay? In contrast to these college kids who are not making a dime to do this, okay? I get more excited watching the kid from Loyola Marymount step up and hit the three at the end of the game against Nevada because guess what? Personal problems, schoolwork, everything aside. Let's not kid ourselves. The kid at Loyola Chicago has to graduate to get a job. And if he graduates with a certain degree, Doug, this day and time, it doesn't guarantee him anything. How many young men and women do we know that graduate with a business degree? Nick, you see this every day. Or graduate with a marketing degree or graduate with something that can't even find jobs in this world, okay?
Absolutely.
So when I talk about, I guess I kind of seem tough when I was talking about Kevin Love.
No,
you're
not tough.
In Kevin Love, I've never met the man, so I don't know if he's got personal problems or not. God knows I probably got more personal problems than Kevin Love. But what I'm saying is, when it's between the lines, it doesn't matter. I think that's what makes golf such a big game to a lot of businessmen, because you have to zone out everything. And you gotta. But I could go on, friend. I just need to shut up.
That's funny you mentioned that because when you're playing golf, you can't say somebody gave you a bad pass, or the ball's wet or something, or the referee made a bad call.
Yeah,
it's his fault. I didn't hit that three. It's you and those clubs. So and your friends see you when you're out there.
Yeah, and you know what here's what I hate about golf. Okay, golf, the ball is sitting still on the ground, and everybody's quiet. Ain't nobody saying a word. Baseball, you standing up there against a 6'7" guy throwing the ball 102 mile an hour, and you got 40,000 people screaming.
Oh yeah.
What's a tougher job to do, Nick?
Hit a baseball.
Doug,
most definitely. The people yelling and screaming at you, and you got to block that out.
But I will tell you this: sitting here this day, I will testify to this. I like my chances of hitting a 102 mile an hour fastball better than I like my chances of taking going to a par 3 and hitting a hole in one. I'll put it to you that way. What do you think, Nick? What chances you like better?
I think it would be easier to hit a hole in one than to hit a 102 mile per hour baseball.
I don't know.
Because I would say this right here: you can't be fearful in baseball. But you said hitting a 102 mile an hour baseball. What if that 102 mile baseball hits you?
If it hits you, you know what, man? If it hits you,
you get first base.
That's right.
Or somebody gonna run for you. There ain't no substitute for golf.
There ain't no substitute for golf whatsoever. There ain't no substitute. Hey, Doug, it's been another great show today. It keeps getting, as my granny used to say, gooder and gooder. Okay, better and better. The shows keep getting gooder and gooder. And thank you guys for listening. If you want to hear more about our real life basketball, go back and look and listen to some of our older interviews with folks like Jay Billis, Sharif Abdul Rahim, Stacy Davis, Charlie Ward. Doug, we've been blessed to have them all over the spectrum. And, from the college guys, college coaches, and pro players to retired Hall of Famers and college football Hall of Famers and Heisman Trophy winners and the number one broadcaster in all of college basketball, and got a lot of other good stuff coming up as well. We'll probably divvy up into NBA a little bit more after college basketball's over.
Oh, yeah.
And then next week we'll talk a little bit more Final Four. We got two coaches that we've been bird dogging to get on, Doug, and we're not going to mention their names because we wouldn't want to disrespect them right now. But if we can pull them off, one of them's out of the tournament already. Might be a good interview going into the Final Four if we could round him up. And then the other's a guy going up there to play in a little tournament up in New York for high school. And who knows, we might be able to round Penny up for long. Dick Vitale's promised to be with us in first week of April or so we're working on that. Thank you for listening and sharing this broadcast with people. Doug?
And we're going to have a big week next week because we get to go down to the McDonald's event.
Yep, forgot all about that. We're going to McDonald's All-American Game, press credentials and all that kind of stuff. On Tuesday, we'll record Monday, but coming up next Friday, we'll probably have a lot of interviews from a lot of good players around the country, or we hope to. Let's just say that. We hope to be able to talk to, EJ, your buddy, and I'm going to try to get a hold of Zion Williamson and ask him a question.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know what? I think he's going to be a terrific pro. Nick, who you looking forward to? You looking forward to asking them guys questions down there?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to Zion for sure.
Yeah.
And all those guys at Memphis East and Mount Verde.
Yeah. So it'll be a pretty interesting time. And there'll be quite a plethora, Doug, of coaches down there, don't you think, that we can talk to and line up for the show? What do you think?
I would hope so.
Hope so. You never know. You never know. Doug, what do you got? Anything else to close us out?
Well, there were some issues this week that came out where Kermit Davis is a new head coach at Ole Miss, and he was quoted supposedly as saying that his team is going to stand up, represent, be respectful, represent the national anthem and the flag, and I think they were already doing that at Middle Tennessee State, so I don't know why that statement had to be made again, but that just kind of stood out there for me, and I wish him the best at Ole Miss, but Middle Tennessee State needs to get another really good coach.
They need another Kermit Davis.
Yes.
They need another Kermit Davis. And where was Kermit? I mean, where was he? Was in the NBA, wasn't he?
Nah, he was on the college level for forever.
Who was that guy in the NBA named Kermit?
There was a Kermit. And
Was it Kermit Washington? I can't even remember. I remember there was somebody named Kermit played in the NBA.
Yeah, that broke a person's face one time.
Yeah. He hit him in the face.
Yeah. Rudy Tomjanovich, rest his soul. Mm-hmm.
Rudy Tomjanovich, that's right. He did. He did. Oh, he's the guy that hit him. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, talking about big fellas. Talking about people that's changed. Did you see Derek Coleman on TV the other night?
I did not.
They showed Derek Coleman, the ex-power forward center and number one overall draft pick out of Syracuse, probably the second best player behind, what's his name, plays for Oklahoma now? What's his name, played at Syracuse? You know, it's on the top of my head. Nick, what's his name, the great Syracuse player?
Anthony.
Oh, Melo.
Carmelo Anthony. Probably the second greatest player in Syracuse history, Derek Coleman. They showed him on TV the other night. Duh. Derek Coleman's a nice man, okay? But Oprah Winfrey owns Weight Watchers right now. Let's just say she got a spokesman. You seen that TV show This Is Us by chance? It comes on NBC.
Have not seen it.
Nick, you seen This Is Us?
No, I haven't seen This Is Us.
All women watch This Is Us, okay? All you wives out there watch This Is Us. There's a lady on This Is Us that weighed about 600 pounds. There really is. Oh, Derek, he make Charles Barkley look like Pee Wee Herman. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Well,
How you could be 6'10" and that big, man? You gotta go like Golden Corral every day.
or they called it the Golden Trough.
Golden Corral, I don't like Golden Corral. You know what? Everybody putting their hands in the food.
No, they're not.
You don't know where people's hands have been and all that. People's kids coming. I wouldn't eat nothing out of that chocolate thing for nothing in this world. Kids be up there sticking their fingers up there and that thing. Nick, I've ate there before. You've been with me when I've ate there, Nick.
Yeah, we ate there last week.
Hey, so much for that sponsorship.
Hey, thanks again for listening. And as always, thank you. Share the show with your friends. If you would, I've never asked this before, but if you would, go on iTunes and leave a rating mark and leave comment marks for our show. We're really starting to take off. We've got listeners all over the world. And Doug, nobody from Sweden answered my email, by the way. I tried to get somebody, but the Swedish listeners. Sweden is our number 2 most listened to country in the world. Is it still number 2? Nick's looking at our numbers right now. I know we're just rolling on. But is Sweden still number 2?
Yeah.
We're getting so many listeners in Sweden now that they're breaking the graphics down county by county or region by region.
Hey, we're smoking. Did you? There's a poll out, and you're going to see it soon that says we're the fastest growing podcast in the country.
Nice. And we've got these shirts, these real-life basketball shirts, and we got some new ones coming out. We sent them to all our coaches and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get those. We'll get back on Facebook Live. We've got some technical issues that we're working on to go back on Facebook Live, Doug, and we're working on that. But Georgia's our most popular state. Thank you for all the folks in Georgia, and it's our home state. Got a lot of listeners. Where else, Nick? Where we got a lot of listeners at? California?
California, Florida.
Washington State, interestingly enough, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Washington State. So, anyway, tell your friends, get your state number 1, shoot us an email. And, guys, thank you for listening to Real Life Basketball. Doug, close us out.
Hey, we appreciate you listening, and we look forward to continuing having success here.
All righty. You've been listening to Real Life Basketball. Nick Paparelli, producer, co-host Darren Sutherland and Doug Lipscomb on the BG Ad Group Network. For more information on Real Life Basketball, feel free to look us up on Facebook at Real Life Basketball or on Twitter at RLB Podcast. We look forward to working with you soon. Thank you. All rights reserved.